You feel like something's missing, don't you? Even if you can't quite name it. Even if your life looks fine from the outside. You have freedom, right? You can choose what to wear. You can speak your mind. You can scroll endlessly through the digital buffet of modern life. But deep down, something isn't sitting right. There's a dull ache you can't explain. An invisible tension. A quiet voice inside that keeps whispering, "This isn't it." And that voice, it's not broken. It's the only sane thing left. You see, most people don't realize they're asleep. Not because they're lazy, not because they're stupid, but because the dream they're in is so well designed, so familiar, so safe, that waking up would feel like a kind of death. Let's make this personal. How many of your choices are actually yours? Really think about that. The way you dress, what you post, what you fear, what you chase. How many of those things were chosen consciously, and how many were just downloaded silently while you weren't paying attention? Because here's the hard truth. The modern world doesn't want you awake. It wants you distracted, comfortably numb, addicted to the illusion of control. And you've probably felt it. That sense that everyone is chasing the same things: success, attention, admiration. But no one's asking why. Plato saw this over 2,000 years ago. In his famous allegory of the cave, he imagined prisoners trapped from birth in a dark cavern. They're chained in place. All they can see are shadows cast on a wall in front of them, shadows of real objects they'll never touch, and they mistake those shadows for reality. Sound familiar? Social media, news cycles, filtered perfection, corporate branding disguised as identity. You're not in a cave with walls. You're in a world made of algorithms, a world that shapes your values, your attention, your very perception, without ever raising its voice. Now imagine one prisoner escapes. They stumble out into the sunlight for the first time. It burns. It blinds them. They're overwhelmed by the raw, chaotic beauty of reality. But they adjust. They begin to see clearly. And they realize they've been living a lie. So they go back to the cave to tell the others. And do you know what happens? The others laugh. They call him crazy. They kill him. Because truth, to people still in the dream, feels like violence. Bonhoeffer said, "The ultimate test of a moral society is the kind of world it leaves to its children." But maybe the truer test is how willing we are to confront the lies we've inherited, even if it means losing the version of ourselves we've grown attached to. Let's talk psychology. Carl Jung believed that what we don't make conscious becomes our fate. He wasn't being poetic. He meant it literally. You will act out your unresolved fears. You will project your pain onto others. You will seek approval from people who don't even know themselves and call it love. You'll take jobs you hate, buy things you don't need, perform for people who aren't even watching, and call it freedom. But it's not freedom, it's performance. A role handed to you the moment you were born. And like any good actor, you've rehearsed it so long, you don't even notice the costume anymore. Machiavelli once wrote that the masses are more easily deceived than enlightened. And deception isn't just political, it's existential. You've been deceived about who you are, about what matters, about what's worth suffering for. And the worst part, you participated in it, not because you're weak, but because you're human. And humans want safety more than truth. Because truth is expensive. It costs relationships. It costs comfort. Sometimes it costs everything. But what it gives back is worth more than any of that. There's a concept in Eastern philosophy called Maya, the great illusion. It's the belief that the world we experience is a veil. A theater of distraction that keeps us from seeing clearly. And every once in a while, something pierces through the veil, a loss, a heartbreak, a moment of deep silence. And suddenly you see. For a second, the world stops spinning. And all the roles, all the expectations, all the masks, they fall away. And there you are, naked, afraid, but real. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Layla. She was successful, well-liked. She had everything she thought she wanted. But one day, sitting in traffic on her way to a job she didn't care about, she heard a child singing on the sidewalk. And for a moment, it cracked her. Not because the song was beautiful, but because she realized She hadn't sung in years. Not really, not freely, not like she did when she was a kid. That moment haunted her, so she started asking questions. Who am I without the titles? Who am I without the filters, the performances, the armor? She left her career. She moved closer to nature. She started painting again. People said she was throwing her life away, but she smiled more, she slept deeper, and for the first time, she felt like herself. Not an idea, not an image, but herself. You don't have to quit your job or move to the woods, but you do have to ask yourself, what parts of my life are mine? What parts were inherited? What parts are just shadows on a wall? Because until you ask those questions, you're not free. You're just playing a part in someone else's script. Real freedom begins the moment you stop pretending. It begins the moment you risk being misunderstood. It begins the moment you trade comfort for clarity. Nietzsche said, "No price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." And maybe that's the whole point. Not to win, not to impress, not to escape pain, but to own yourself, flaws, wounds, truths, all of it. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be real. So take off the mask, step out of the cave, and let the light blind you. Because that's how freedom begins. If you want to see more, click the subscribe button and like.